Great. And it's trams, right? Mirage
Yes,
trams.
trams. That's it.
I love it. All right. Hey everybody, this is Mirage Trams, and she's here today to talk a little bit about what she's been doing in the improv community. And very specifically, I wanted to talk to her because she's from Denver and she did improv in Denver. And a lot of people know that my husband and I are moving to Denver to go and basically reinvent a theater that's already there. And be there for the community and try to build something that is different and hopefully very cool. So I'm hoping to get her take on stuff, and yeah, that's it. I'm just very excited to meet you.
I'm excited to meet you too. So fun.
Awesome. So why don't you tell people just briefly like how you started, where you started in improv, and what you're doing now.
Okay. So my history with improv goes way back. My dad my dad was a person who worked on the pipeline. I was born in Alaska, and he worked on the pipeline, and that's a whole thing. But in his spare time, he would go down to Chicago and lower 48 and take classes with Second City. And he would bring them back up to us and teach us those classes and stuff like that. And so we always knew improv games. We knew, like, it was just part of like what we did on Fridays. So after that, I like went to college, got married, all that kind of stuff. But while I was in college, I took a job at IBM as a programmer.
Oh, cool.
Mm.
not very fun.
No, is it?
Well, sounds cool.
Okay, let's keep going. It was a job at IBM as a programmer, and so we were contracted to an insurance company for a proprietary language. So that's the worst job a comedian can have, I think. Insurance company programmer for a language that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was horrible. And I had said before, I moved up because people liked me and I could make them laugh and stuff like that. So, that's after I moved and got married and all that kind of stuff. And so I can't remember what happened, but I started taking classes, and I started taking some improv classes, and I knew I knew everything. It just brought back memories, and I loved it and stuff like that. So I started to make in Denver. I started to write sketch shows, and they were fun. And I started to do stand up, and I found out that it was really expensive to hire a director in Denver. So I started to direct my own shows. And Jazz at Jack's, Sandra Watts, she helps a lot in the creation of me as a comedian. So.
And what theaters were you doing stuff out there then? Was Bovine was probably around?
Bovine, yeah, definitely. Bovine, of course, Impulse Theater.
Okay. I haven't heard of them, but I'm sure they're probably still around.
Yeah. Let's see. There were a lot of like kind of offshoots, but my main place as a stand-up was so there, of course, there was the improv out there, and where was I at? Where did I do comedy in Denver? Comedy Works. I was thinking Comedy Works.
Yeah, there's a lot of like offshoot, because I remember in around 2006 I started thinking about moving from New York, because I was doing improv in New York at UCB, and getting a little bit disgruntled by everything. And Denver just seemed like a really cool place. I'd been there,
Yeah.
and I did the research, and there just wasn't. It was more stand up, and there wasn't really a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
And not a lot of. I mean, I reached out to a lot of theater owners, and not a lot got back to me.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just wanted an idea of what the scene was like out there, because I was like, well, because I was already teaching in New York independently outside of UCB, so I was like, maybe I could do that there. But I just wanted to get a feel for it, and it just felt like a lot of guys running a lot of things, and there wasn't a lot of interest in improv yet. So I was kind of
Yeah.
like, well, maybe I'll wait, you know?
You know, I'll say, like, because I have a lot of great connections for you in Denver. So do you have a kind of idea of the Denver scene at all? You don't. You do. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, Comedy Works and all of that.
I know Voodoo, and Nick Armstrong and I know each other really well. We used to live together out here. He
Oh,
hired
wow.
me out at West Side, and he's great. And then I don't really know the people at Bovine, but I've been kind of tracking everything, and I know that they're closing their brick and mortar, but they're still doing online classes.
Yeah.
And then I've gotten a lot of fun kind of like, oh, there's this experimental dance troupe you have to know about. And there's this, so I'm ready to kind of go all in and see what's going on. And
Yeah.
welcome to the shows.
There used to be a show in the Clock Tower off of 16th Street Mall. Like, so all of that, afterwards, well, I'll get you all set up. But I'll be getting you set up for like 2010. So I can't tell you what the future was like there. But my comedy like mentor, one of my best friends, I'm going to be talking to him live on Friday, is Hippie Man. John Noversad. Oh my gosh, he's so funny. Chuck Roy, Josh Blue, we all like would write together. Wow. Stephanie McHugh, it just all of us, we would just write. And it was such a fun environment because it was all about real comedy, like pure comedy. When I got to LA, I just was like, what is this?
Yeah.
It was what we would call like cotton candy, like it would feed it, it's funny and it's a chuckle, but there's no substance to it. It's like, what do they even say? So with so many actors, wanting to be comedians
Right.
is sad, but weird.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt when I got here too. I felt, because coming from New York, I felt like there's a huge improv scene. And I was like one of those people that got the, we live in LA, everybody, cars. But I was one of the first people that was like, why aren't we doing more indie shows? Why aren't we doing, so it's like I started a lot of the indie scene out there, and then kind of kept pushing for it while I was there. So when I got here, I was like, where's the indie scene? And I know Becky Drysdale from New York. So when I got out here, I knew that she had started, the Clubhouse, and I was like, that's great. But there didn't seem to be a lot of it was just hard to find.
Yeah.
You could take the train and go to like 3 or 4 indie shows a night in New York, and here you were kind of like.
Yes, it's the same. I mean, like I found that even with, just any type of clothes, you almost have to be part of a secret society to know where you can buy shoes that are affordable. It's like everything is part of like, oh, get to know this group of people, and then you'll understand how the system works here. So it's a really weird, like process.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm okay with leaving at this point. I think I was 6 months in. I was like, well, I don't want to really be an actor on TV or film. So what am I doing?
Well, how do you like snow? What are your thoughts on snow?
I grew up in New Hampshire, so snow, and my parents currently live at a ski resort. So I've lots of snow.
Good.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm actually looking forward to seasons again. I feel like time has no meaning in LA, so I feel
Mm.
like I'm rapidly aging and have, no idea of when is when and what is what.
Girl, I can tell you where to live. I can tell you you're set.
Oh, great. We already have an apartment.
Oh,
So
you do? Oh, okay.
my husband had to go out before me because he got promoted at his job, so he's out there like a whole month before me. So he's gonna
Oh.
map everything out. We're on South Broadway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Ooh.
we're living right above the theater that we're gonna be running.
Ah,
Yeah,
yes.
so that'll be convenient because I don't like to drive either.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But let's tell people that don't know what you're doing now. I know a little bit about it, but I'd rather you explain it.
Well, my friend and my brother Huey Stonefish and I have been working. We met at Second City, and when I came here from Denver, I did realize that the scene was a lot different. I feel like the Denver scene feels a lot more. It's a different kind of inclusion. It's more inclusive though. I did radio out there. I did stand up. I did improv, sketch, all of that. But that was because I had these mentors that were kind of just like pushing me along when I was not good, that told me that I was good. And so I had all of this, like, these people who were just like really dope in my life. But it was, there were mostly white males. Yeah, yeah. But I had that, there was an inclusive, we build each other up kind of feel when I was going through that scene. Coming here, there wasn't that feel. And one thing that I noticed about California is that in a lot of places, we say that we're so integrated just because of the way that we look, and we're just not that way. I mean, you can go to a lot of libraries and in February, and they have no Black History Month, and you're like, we have 1 month with 28 days, and you can't put a book from this way to this way up for you to say you are okay with Black people. So Huey and I started to do a lot of projects together. And one thing that he could see is how I was not having the same opportunities, or just the differences in the way our experiences were going because we were so close. And I'm like, yeah, Huey. And I always write sketches, or my comedy is always laced with social justice, or moving forward, or the way, because that's the way I see the world. And we had been for years making these statements to the theaters that we've worked with. I've worked with all of the theaters. And so Huey at one time decided to write a letter to Second City in a time I was telling him not to go outside and get coronavirus. And we wrote a letter to Second City. We held a big town hall about the things, and we allowed our community to speak out and say the things that they felt were not right about our community. And more people came than we thought. And it kind of spurred on another set of town halls and people who had these ideas of what, like trying to let their communities speak. Some theaters did, some theaters didn't. But we started to hear from other people in our community about the injustice that they were experiencing, and they felt that they wanted to be a voice too. We also started to realize that there's a lot of fear out there of retaliation. So those are things that we decided to tackle too. So this has become a big movement right now. It's out of it has come Hollywood accountability. On the 14th of next month, we have a huge town hall with CBS. And it's just become this big project where we also help comedians in our community be able to live without the concept of scarcity. Because here in LA, you could be doing a dope show and kill it and then come outside and your car is towed.
Right.
And then that's everything. Like if you made any money, it goes into that. If you made, so that's the kind of stuff we deal with here all the time. Plus high rent. You know, a lot of times you don't have the security of like transportation, things like that. So we're trying to make it easier so that we can all be funnier.
Yeah. Well, that's a very simple point to make.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you for a second about the CBS stuff, because were you part of the diversity program at CBS?
Yeah.
So I've had a ton of friends in the program, and also I had friends before I moved out here being like, "Oh, you should get involved in the diversity program," because I'm a 45-year-old woman.
You look great.
So thank you. But so, you know, there was a time where just being an older woman was part of being included in diversity. You know, but then
thanks for not dying earlier.
Right. But I heard such terrible things about it because I had friends who were writers and also friends who were actors. And I just got turned off by it immediately because, first of all of the writers were pretty much white. So it's like they were writing for other people whose experience they had no clue about. And then my friends who were actors that were involved in it were also just felt like they were being displaced. Like, and they were also, you know, I know you know this already, but no one was getting paid, you know, they had to fend for themselves and sleep on couches. And it was just so frustrating because it just felt like whatever they were trying to do was not working, you know. Right. And I know other networks tried to do the same thing or tried to have these like offshoot studios. And so I assume your experience was not great, but I don't know.
Well, yeah, my experience, I did, we had the Trump year when Trump, it was crazy. But it wasn't a great experience at first, okay? Our year was a little bit different. When I first got into that program, what I saw is that people would come, we're in a really dark, dank basement, people would be hungry, all of that, and we'd be watching these sketches. The first sketches would get like lots of laughs and stuff, so we would pick the sketches based on, you know, this huge writer's room, mostly white. We picked the sketches based on laughs from the white crowd of writers. So you had to learn how to speak white man. And so as we were like writing and stuff like that, and we're really, I mean, we had to churn these things out to try and get them in front and stuff. Your goal is to always get in front of this panel. And so we're churning this stuff up. The actors are trying to really memorize what they're doing. And by the end of the day, everything was thumbs down. Nobody loved anything. It was like, this is garbage, garbage, garbage. It was just because, I mean, I looked at it as a mother. I was like, this is because everybody's hungry. Why are we sitting up here? I just want to eat. All I can think about is sandwiches. I don't know what this is. Like that clown and donkey, I don't have any idea. I just want a sandwich. So we implemented like a potluck system where we brought food in every day for people, and everybody was able to stay there a little bit longer and like be like kind of okay with that. And then we bring water in for people, and then we'd have people who would have a sketch in but couldn't get there because they were from out of town and they quit their job or were on a hiatus at their job or whatever, so they didn't have income. And they would not be able, so they, you know, here and there say, hey, are you living on this side of town? Can I get a ride with you? So we implemented like hey, open yourself up to be able to give rides. So, and the same thing for, you know, couch surfing and sharing and stuff like that, just to make it available. And it brought our group a lot closer. So we have a lot of those same connections right now. I find that our group is really close. We also lived through Trump, so that was a Trump election. That was not. But after that, though, was the big the big thing that happened with CBS, the big cleaning out. So I don't take any responsibility for that, but maybe, I don't know.
Subconsciously, maybe, or
Maybe it's like it all came together.
I don't want to get off track because I can easily get off track with talking to you about this stuff. But I wanted to talk. So you're kind of going kind of for these bigger markets right now, and like having them be accountable for what's going on, which is unbelievable just to see this like ripple across, you know, everything, where it's like, I remember first seeing you kind of starting to do stuff, and then I would be like, and then you'd see another theater kind of coming down, and then I was like, oh, she's gonna go for all of it, and it was just like so exciting to just because like I think I told you a little bit about this, but when I started at UCB in New York, I was like one of maybe 10 women there. So there was this idea that I was like, oh, and I was like 24, you know, and I was like, oh, wow, like I feel so special being one of the only females. And, you know, that quickly went away once I realized what that meant, especially being that age and being a girl. There was this thing of like, well, you know, don't make too much noise, because I was always the first person to be, you know, in the town hall, so raise my hand and shout and yell about kind of like, there's really just a bunch of white people here and like 10 girls. And I was always basically kind of softly threatened, which was very weird at that age, because I was such a strong kind of loudmouth that I don't know, I had the fear of God in me. Basically people saying, you know, if you shout too hard, you're never going to get on a Herald team.
Yeah.
And then it was then I was being kind of like groomed to be a teacher. And then it was like, well, if you don't sleep with this person and that person, you won't be a teacher here. Yeah. Which I, you know, I made the choice of not sleeping with people to get ahead. Yeah. So I had to claw myself, you know, in that community. And the thing was, like, they always say at UCB, it's like, well, just be undeniable, right? If you're undeniable, no one. And so I think I was undeniable enough to never be truly kicked out of the system. Mm-hmm. But I had to go off and do my own thing to like do what I love and make money. But then this weird thing started happening where then a lot of girls started coming in, but they were a very different kind of girl. Like when I started, it was kind of like the freaks, geeks, and weirdos, you know, like that's what UCB was all about. And I was like in for it. I was like, cool, this is a clubhouse. There's, you know, these are all people I like. I went to college with Eugene Cordero, and Colton Dunn was kind of around. He was dating a girl from my college, and we were all friends. So it's like I saw them there, and I was like, okay, all right, great. But still, you know, still not a lot of diversity. But so anyways, long story short, all these beautiful girls started coming in. And then it was, you didn't necessarily have to be that funny as a woman. Mm-hmm. You just had to look very pretty on stage and kind of, you know, not that there wasn't funny, beautiful women there. Of course there was. Mm-hmm. But then so the issue with women being in improv kind of started taking a back seat, which, so then I started yelling and screaming about why aren't we being inclusive, like why aren't we including ourselves with all these other theaters, because Armando Diaz kind of fractioned off and started the the Pit with Ali, mm-hmm. and then they fractioned off and he started the Magnet. But even when that was all happening, I was like pitching the Del Close Marathon. I was like, why don't we do it on all the theaters? And they were like, now, you know, and I was just like, I could never wrap my head around why things were so fractured.
Yeah.
And I got to see from a small, tiny little theater to growing to these huge spaces. I left before the Times Square debacle, thank God. But then we started having more people of color coming in, which I was like, thank you, like, good, you know, like I was sick of playing the housewife all the time. You know, and I never was that person. Like, I was like,
Right.
I'll play a jam troll in the basement all day long. You know, you try to make me your wife, I'm going to be some kind of weirdo.
Right.
But so then I kind of, it was interesting because I felt like I had to kind of quiet down a little bit. Because I felt this surge of new voices coming in, and I wanted to be there, but I was, you know, it was a weird time where I was like, I don't know how to be there without looking like, you know, I'm trying to do this for me. So I kind of took a step back and was just there to hear and listen. And then I got known to be a teacher that was, oh, you can't pass 401, go to Amy's class. But then I started noticing I had a lot of women, I had a lot of older people, I had a lot of people of color, I had people with disabilities, I had, you know, trans people. Like, it was, they were all coming to me, and it was so cool to like learn how to, because I was always like all in all the time, but the idea of getting a whole class to be an ensemble,
Yeah.
messed with my brain because I could see people having weird reactions to certain things,
Mm-hmm.
people. But besides all that, like, oh, and then the other thing that I felt I just wanted to note to you really quickly, and then I'll be quiet, was this. So we, a couple of people came to me asking if I knew of other people, or specifically Black people, for an all-Black team, and I was like, absolutely, I got a couple of guys that I know that are great for my classes. And they kind of all came together and started this indie team with the goal. And Keisha Zoller was like, this is my goal. I want to rehearse for a year and get really good. And then I want to go in and I want to audition as a team to be a Herald team. And at that point, they had started like Lloyd Night and stuff. I was like, I am all in, you know. I was just excited about it. And so I started to coach astronomy club for a while, and we were just having such a great time. And also it was just neat to experience other voices all coming together, because then at one point they were like, can we have a sit down where you kind of mediate us talking about stuff, because certain people on the team were like, I don't know if we should use the N-word, and other people were like, I think it's okay. And I was like, you want me to mediate? I'm like, whoa.
You're like, this is a trick. I'm not falling for this.
I cannot tell you how uncomfortable I was, because I did not feel like I was the right person for it. But I was their coach, and I was just like, I was very much like, ah. And the only thing I could contribute was, well, just because you're from Connecticut and you grew up in the Bronx, you guys still have different experiences.
Yeah.
So those voices coming together all on one team is going to be amazing. But I still have like nightmares about that meeting, because I was like, I'm going to say something.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm sure
if
I did.
That was a sketch. I would love to see that. I want to see how they,
I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure if I talked to some of them about it now, they'd be like, oh, there were moments where I'd be like, oh no. Because I was like something heavy and just not, because I was like, I just, you know, I was just coming at it from my own experience of like, you know, other voices. But anyway, so it's like cool to have seen their journey, and then they became they had to fight for their sketch shows. They started coming at our AD really hard, because they had a sketch show, and at the end they had this line that was kind of like, it wasn't disparaging, I mean, maybe a little bit to the theater, but it's basically like, oh, who would have thought that, you know, these ragtag kids could be doing a sketch show in the basement of a theater. And the AD came at them and was like, don't bite the hand that feeds you. And they were like, go fuck yourself.
Right.
So
that's so it.
Yeah. and they did their own thing, you know, and they kind of led their own charge, and they're all doing such great things individually and together now. But my point of that is like, it just grew really quickly. It grew from this, like, from 2001 to like where it is now. The voices have changed, and it's happening in small markets. So that's what I want to talk to you about, because you're tackling the big markets. I'm kind of going the opposite way, being like, I've been in the big markets. Now I want to go to this small market. And to give you a quick background on it, so a friend of mine asked me to come and be the training center director at his theater out there. And then I'm sure you're not following this, but in the Denver Improv Facebook page, basically, I was like, yeah, of course, yeah, I'll do that. I'll move, you know, let's do it. And then everything just blew up. Like, a bunch of people from the community kind of came out and said they're like, these are the things that have happened over the past 6 years.
Wow.
And like, you know, of course, once you kind of like compile those all together, it looks really bad for whoever they're talking about.
Yeah.
And they kind of systematically went through each theater and called them all out, which was great. Nicole Harris kind of led the charge in that area. She's very cool. I've just been talking with her on Facebook, so hopefully we can talk in person at some point. But yeah, she was also scared to come out, because I think there's been so many times where some of them have tried to say something or speak up, and everyone's kind of like, no, come on. There's not a lot of spaces for us to play in, but now they're collectively coming together, and I think they're still banning. They're saying that they're it might be all people of color, but that might be stretching it. But they're banning doing any improv in any of the theaters until they all get their shit together.
Wow. That's amazing.
Right.
That's amazing.
I know.
Go Denver.
So, which I think is like great, because it's like, yes, stand up for, you know, yeah. Because they need your voices. So that's what I'm doing. I was basically faced with waking up with seeing on the theater I'm going to, the owner, it was like, he said this and he did this and he did. Luckily, nothing sexual, which I was like, okay, because that's a very big hard line for me. Not that I'm okay with any of the other stuff, but I was like, whew. All right. And I knew him as a person, and, you know, I'm sure, you know, it's like good old boys from Colorado. It's like, oh, what are you talking about? I'm not racist. And you're like, well,
right. Yeah.
Maybe you are. So I woke up to that, and then I just panicked for like a couple of days. I was like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. And I talked to Jay Suko, and I talked to a bunch of other people. I talked to Nick Armstrong. And then one day I just looked at my husband and I said, you know what? I can turn my back on this and say, you deal with it and just like cancel it all, or run into the fire. And I was like, I'm built for this. I'm going to run into the fire. What the fuck else?
Yes. Right.
So that's what I'm going towards.
Yeah. You're going towards fire.
Yeah. But the cool thing is, he's basically like, yes, take over the program, change the curriculum, change the theater name, change anything you want. So that's what I'm doing. But this is what I want to get your take on. So I want to try to run a theater like a co-op grocery store. So I said they gave me the title of training center director and co-creative director, because I want the other co-creative director to be everybody at the theater. Sounds crazy to me, but there's something about it that I think will work.
Yes.
Because it's a small community, so I've met with every single teacher personally on a Zoom and talked to them about, like, what do you love doing there? What do you want to do in the future? You know, dream big kind of thing. And I'm going to meet with the rest of the performers at some point, but I keep saying to all of them, like, this is your space, you know, and like, You want to see the numbers. You want to see what we pay in rent. It's all that I got it all. Everyone can see whatever they want to see.
Right.
Well, personally, I'm not getting paid yet, which is
Right.
fine. It's totally fine because I just have to find the money. I just have to figure it out and make the money for the theater so we can keep the brick and mortar, you know? And I'm willing to do that work. It's not like I haven't done free theater before, you know?
Right.
And I teach all the time online, so I'll be fine, you know? I think the thing that killed me was that Sharna letter. When I saw that and I just freaked out and went on Facebook, it was my first big,
it's well, from that perspective, I think that, I mean, I honestly think that the IO situation personally is an example of the bully tactics that are used in our especially our community, because our community, as far as progression, we're behind about 20 years, right? So we're doing the same kind of stuff that happened just in regular society is happening in our community now, same stuff that happened about 15-20 years ago, right? So you're looking at like, what was it like in the 90s? Okay, you just started to like have like people who were like women who were funny, like, oh wow, women are funny, you know, like what do you, so I always wonder when people are getting into things like this, what their motivation is if you are coming from a place of privilege already. And how is it that, I mean, and what people feel about the term white supremacy, because white supremacy, what does that bring up in your head? It brings up KKK and skinheads and all of that. So we make it something that is not palatable for our ears. Like we can't hear it because it sounds like you're being like, this guy, you know, we're talking about killing people. But the reality is that this industry is laced with white supremacy. Like it's white supremacy. If you go to any theater, it is there, you'll have mostly white men there, right? So I'm like, I always wonder, like when people do want to make a change, I'm like, okay, why do you want to make a change? Because if you're already getting benefits from this, why do you want to change that? Unless you understand that changing it for the person that has it the worst will also change it for you. It'll make it so much better for you. Because if you change it for me, and my issue is I need to be able to speak my mind and have no repercussions for that, then you understand that that's what everybody needs. This is something that needs to come throughout. This is what gives us power. This is what gives women power. This is what gives people who have disabilities power. This is the power that we need. And then we get past that, just like the food, and we can make funnier content. The idea of like not having scarcity in a position or talent, like a talent pool isn't just like, oh, I can only choose 3 Black people for this. Or my poster has so many Black people. It's that we have to change the way of thinking on a whole. Because even if you have, I think a lot of people, even people of color, will see that we have women, like say maybe you have a Black women troupe and their name is Black Women, let's say. I'm not creative today. It's like the Black Women's Troupe. The fact that we have to title it the Black Women's Troupe, we're automatically saying that this other troupe that's just called troupe is white men. So we're classifying white men as just normal. How do we get out of that kind of situation? I think that personally, I believe it's letting the community speak to you as a co-creator. You know, you're going to have like a flat organization. I hear a flat organizational structure that you're kind of building without it just being like just and submit, like the all power goes out to everybody and all of that. Like it's not like, but we're saying like a flat organizational structure though, where you have your team and then they are able to you give information back and forth. Having these things like monthly roundtables or town halls or something like that, to allow them to speak also gives them the responsibility to change their own communities
Yeah.
if you are actually there. And also you're there to actually touch, be there with them. Like you're not Oz in the back of the place, like running. You're you're right there with them. And all of the things that they say may not make sense, because you might get some people who are like white men who are like, I don't like that I don't do all the shows anymore. And like, and his name's Todd.
Yeah.
But not any Todds I know, because y'all are great.
Grab my fan.
Okay.
I was like, I'm gonna close this window because it's loud, and I'm like, look like a sweaty rat. Yeah, I think that's the other part about it, is like dismantling the calendar too, of like what shows. I keep saying to everybody, like, I don't want a all women's night, or an all LGBTQ night. Like,
Yeah.
like you can come on a Monday and you see 3 completely different shows, and you're just like, what? Where am I?
Yeah. What is this? Yes.
Yeah. That's my goal. I hope to do it, and I hope to do. I also was a kindergarten teacher for 8 years, so in Manhattan, in a really diverse public school. So that was really cool, because I that's what I also loved, is like outreach, and I pitched this to UCB like 10 years before they even attempted anything like this. But I was like, go to the school. Why aren't we going to schools? Like, I remember theater troops coming through my schools, and that's when I was like, what is this? This is what I want to do. So it's like, that's where you have to go. All schools. Just expose it, and have different types of people there with you. But that's all I can think of. There's other little things, but like, and also my teachers, it's like 50% women, 50% men right now, which thank God. But do you have any advice on what else small markets can do to help with everything that's going on right now, and to bring in inclusivity? It's not, to me, it's not about diversity. Like, that's just a must. It's more about like just being inclusive.
I think like too, first of all, I always thought that UCB, when I was there, was like a frat house, just letting you know. It was just like they had that frat house feel. Never, and there were times that I was within, but I was inside this frat house, and it didn't feel good ever. It never felt good. So, I mean, I think that with having the idea of like the inclusivity, the things I would look out for is the concept of tokenism. Like, just to have people in shows, just like, oh, we need this person in the show because they're Black and they're the best Black person we have. I would stay away from that. But while doing that, you're populating your audiences with the diversity or the inclusivity. So you are in these different neighborhoods and stuff, or maybe you do shows in different parts of town. Maybe you do offer classes to places that usually aren't included in the arts outreach. And with that, you start to change the way that your audience looks. And then you have to change the way, so the audience wants to see themselves on stage. And you need to like pepper your stage with the people that the audience needs to see. So hopefully your classes start to, like, if you have the audience and then the classes, and then it starts to show up on your stage, then you see that you're reaching these people who all are different, and not just look different on the outside, but they have different insides. And then the improv, but like, that's where and I know that that's a hard thing to do, but I think starting in a place where you are actually bringing people in to have this to have the experience of theater, have the love of the theater, have the love of comedy, that we have this passion for it, even in ways maybe that you're teaching little groups outside of the theater, like you're going into Aurora, you're going into Thornton or whatever, you know, you're going into these different places that are totally opposite sides, and then bringing them in, giving them all this education, and then bringing them into a show. So your family has a show. And then making your shows reflect the audience, because a lot of people would ask, why is it that Black people don't go to improv shows or sketch shows? And you're like, they don't see themselves on stage. They see a whole bunch of like white dudes, and they're like, oh, this isn't my show. Even if they're there and they're like in the audience, they'll be like, I bought the wrong ticket, and they'll leave because they don't see themselves on stage. And it's disheartening, because it's not just, it's just telling that person that they don't belong there, which is much worse than just like, you know, oh, it's only improv. Like, it's much worse than that.
That's awesome. That's because yes, the audience, I didn't even think about it that way. And that's what I was trying to do with the shows, is trying to have, so it's like different audience coming in and out to see the shows, and maybe that all that kind of crossing starts to, I didn't even think about it on that level of like, it's a trickle down, you know, and that's so smart. Because to me, it's like, I would rather go to places and do outreach with not the goal that they come to my improv theater, but just that they're exposed to it, because it changed my life. I'm sure it changed yours.
Yeah.
You know? And just hope for the best. Like, there's nothing cooler than my kindergartners reaching out to me, and now they're like, I'm in college, I'm taking film, because I taught them film, and I'm like, what?
I have like some that I mentored, and they're like, I'm a comedian, and I'm a feminist comedian. I'm like, sorry to your mama, but yay.
That was awesome. I don't want to keep you too much longer, because I've kept you for an hour now. And is there anything else you wanted to say, or?
Yeah, I appreciate people like you who are trying to make these kind of changes, because we all do it together. And like, this is so much more than just, like I said, you know, yuck yuck on stage and all of that kind of stuff, because it feeds into the heart of who we are. And as comedians, we're vulnerable, so, right? So we're showing our insides. And so many times, like with your story at the beginning, and with so many other stories, you feel like you have to censor yourself or not be yourself. And that does a lot to somebody. And over the years, how do we get people to be at that point of not having to censor themselves in a way that you're censoring who you are? You know, because I was talking to somebody, and you know, in improv, that there's that saying of like, everything you do is right. You know, like, don't worry about it, just everything you do is right. And then I have to tell like the kids, like, as long as it's respectful, everything you do is right, right?
Yeah.
Not everything. But then I started, I was talking with Joy Mamie, and we were talking about this, and we're like, you know what? It's not necessarily everything you do is right when you're improvising, and that's what keeps us from making those choices. It's everything you are is right. Who you are and the choices you make based on your experiences, that's going to be right. Somebody else might not understand it, but it's going to be right. So if we can like make that transition in this improv world, in this sketch world, in this theater comedy world, that everything you are is right, then I think things will start to move in a good direction, where we're able to like really start making change and really hold people's feet to fire. And I think as women, we just need to speak up too. We need to say, you know, we always think we're going to get kicked out, or we're going to lose out on things. And, you know, we don't have anything to lose. If you give us crumbs, we don't have anything to lose. Yeah. So we can go full out. I think going in there like you are, and like going in gangbusters for change. I'm right behind you. I'm right a few states over, and I know Denver very well. So let's get it.
And I'm going to be doing all kinds of like labs with just anyone who wants to be teaching. So if you teach a class and
okay, I'm right here.
I'll pay you very well, very
Ooh,
well.
what? Handsomely, you say?
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. You gave me so much to think about, and I appreciate you talking. And hopefully, everybody now knows more of who you are.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm gonna stop recording, and we can chat quickly about that. Okay.
Thank you.
Gosh.